It looks like the internet's back to body-shaming fictional characters. Oof. Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. You know, there's so much social justice toxicity that it hurts the anime fandom, and I don't feel it's fair to let all that outrage go unopposed. If the interest is stable, I plan to occasionally cover articles and debates that quite frankly piss me off. Seriously, you think Sony started enforcing censorship overnight? You get enough of these sensitive, entitled people whining, and companies foolishly start to think that is what we, the fans, want. Senran Kagura's producer, Kenichiro Takaki, was so frustrated by all the restrictions to his fan service games that he's effectively left Marvelous to pursue other projects. While he's still going to be the series' producer, he's sick of fighting Marvelous when it comes to trimming down his ambitions to fit with Sony's BS policies. Who knows what the next game in the series is going to look like? But he certainly isn't optimistic about a game industry riddled with an anti-sex agenda. So yeah, years ago, people were afraid SJW rhetoric would take their anime games away from them. Turns out now that they were right. So I want to fight that rhetoric, and I hope you'll join me in that endeavor. Today's article happens to be from Sankaku Complex, covering a Twitter thread started by someone out to complain about My Hero Academia's anime and how it depicts its female characters as thinner than their manga counterparts. To sum things up, the manga's author, Kohei Horikoshi, has a preference for girls who are a bit on the plump side, with some meat on their bones, as he puts it. This is reflected in how he draws his female characters. When his work was adapted into an anime, it's clear the creative staff at Studio Bones went with depicting the girls as thinner, likely in an attempt to appeal to a broader audience. Twitter's toxic leeches were quick to turn this into a statement on body positivity, claiming these changes set unrealistic body standards for women, and that making these changes sends a signal that people only care about the character's physique. To that, I have 3 things to say. First, this wouldn't be an issue so long as it remained about aesthetics and taste. If your only complaint was that you happened to find the chubbier drawings more appealing, and you wish the anime also featured that design, then that's a perfectly valid stance to have. I personally appreciate the anime's art far more, but at the end of the day, it's just a preference of mine, and certainly Horikoshi has every right to draw what he wants to draw. Inversely, while it might not be faithful to its source, so long as people enjoy the anime's new art, it too has a right to exist. In fact, part of the excitement of being an artist involves taking characters others have created and depicting them with one's own visual style. And honestly, these changes usually go the opposite direction. There are tons of fan artists who take skinny anime characters and draw them to be much thicker than their original design, ramping up their proportions to be far more voluptuous. For example, there's a good chunk of fan art for Tifa from Final Fantasy VII that depicts her as more busty and full-bodied than any of her canonical appearances. Yet, as with all other art, spectators are free to like and dislike it. If anything, these various depictions help a character appeal to a much larger fan base overall, since we're given options and freedom of interpretation. But of course, this isn't the issue here at all. Rather, it's just like that article posted on bulimia.com a while back, which reverse photoshops fit video game women to be fatter to encourage body positivity. At the end of the day, these exercises more often than not wind up thin shaming more than anything else. Let's look at Riku from Final Fantasy X-2. She's a girl who travels the world, often on foot, battling an assortment of dangerous monsters, and functions as a thief, requiring her to be swift and agile. While she's not exactly muscular in-game, her thin depiction is certainly far more realistic for her occupation than the shockingly large parody they created. Riku is more an athlete, and contrary to the social agenda being conjured, women like her really do exist and are much more common than you'd think. Then we have Lara Croft, who, in both original and reboot design, is pretty much a parkour master who regularly backflips and hops from ledge to perilous ledge. Her large breasts aside, it makes perfect sense why her body would more closely resemble that of Say, American Ninja Warrior's Jesse Graff. I'm pretty sure the average American growing up in this obesity epidemic isn't going to be able to pull off those stunts. This proves most of the outrage is coming from the West, essentially body-shaming the rest of the world. If you look at Japan, where these works are being created, being skinny is the norm. Whether you chalk it up to diet, culture, or genetics as your scapegoat, it's safe to say that the average Japanese person, either male or female, is much thinner than that of the United States. Going back to My Hero Academia, it makes sense that these girls who are in a heavily physical occupation would be skinny, even to the point of sporting abs. If we're talking realism, there's certainly an argument to be had for why Horikoshi's art isn't realistic for his own fictional setting, perhaps implying that the kind of girl he likes wouldn't necessarily be the hardcore athlete type that would become a hero. But you know what? That shouldn't be the point. This is My Hero Academia, an anime where people have friggin' superpowers. There's a girl whose ears extend as audio cables, for crying out loud. What burden does this show have to even be slightly realistic? The entire premise of anime itself is based around subverting reality, instilling it with an artist's ideal human form. Anime characters have large eyes because they're cute and expressive, petite mouths, and tiny noses because noses are often large, schnozzy, and unflattering. This is obviously unrealistic because when you try to put these features on an actual human, it looks uncanny as hell. Compared to the face, achieving the figure of an anime character is far more within reach. If anime looked just like reality, I wouldn't care for it at all. As for the idea that this discussion itself means we're objectifying women and valuing them solely for their bodies, I'll have you know that it's perfectly natural to want your entertainment to feature attractive people in it. It's a matter of preference, not representation. If you want representation, stop trying to squeeze it out of passionate artists and start your own production company, and we'll see how that goes. Make your own drawings. If people like it, they'll support it. Anime is art, and having specific tastes in art is just part of the experience. My last talking point comes from one of the Twitter responses that claims how wrong it is for an artist to talk about how sexy they've made their characters when said characters are 15. As it turns out, I have a whole video about that attitude, which you can find in the card above or in this video's end banner. In general though, I just want to kick these moral guardians to the curb. We're talking about drawings, and if those drawings depict a sexually developed young woman, then you finding them attractive the same way you would an 18-year-old indicates that the character's age is insignificant. Unlike real people, fictional characters don't need to be protected. They aren't limited by their age the same way we are in reality. Yeah, there's just so much wrong with the rhetoric being smeared on Twitter, and I would hate for it to give someone the wrong image of anime. What do you all feel about this issue? And just talking preferences, which art style do you prefer? The animes or the mangas? If you have any other stories like this, feel free to message me on Twitter or through my Discord, which you can find links to in the description below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this channel, help me beat the algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and most of all, smashing that notification bell as if it were your waifu. That way you'll never miss out on all of my anime content, lore videos, live streams, and Holy Waifu Wars polls. My vids are struggling to get featured, so that bell is absolutely critical. If you want to support me directly, check out my Patreon, or consider donating via Super Chat. And as always, celebrate your fandom.